Hello and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to be looking at League One performance buzz analysis, and this follows on from the last two videos of the Premier League and the Bundesliga. So if you haven't checked them out already, it may be worth you check those ones out. And if you are enjoying the video at any point, please drop a like down below and subscribe if you haven't already for future content on leagues such as La Liga and Serie A to come out, and further content that I'll be producing in the future. So just going into a brief look at the League One current standings, we can see there that PSG already walking away with the league, also with a game in hand, being there 12 points as it stands above Marseille, who have had a very respectable season. And at the other end of the table there, we can see that Toulouse there on 13 points. Although this isn't the biggest gap between top and bottom with the Premier League, Liverpool and Norwich, this is the lowest amount of points from one team at this stage of the season, which is interesting to note, with their goal difference taking a battering there of minus 36. So that may be something to consider within the French league to look out for when the top teams do play the bottom teams, and how big of a difference there are at times, or whether there are strengths and weaknesses of each team. So with there being 68 performance buzz winners, we can see the breakdown there on the screen. And what is interesting to take note of before we move forward into the video is a large number of single match days that League One do encounter throughout the season. And this will be consistent through many seasons in the future, just because their league timetable, they play a lot of midweek games, so you see a lot of fixtures with just one or two games on that particular day. And for that, they have 29 of their 68 performance buzz winners. So, coming towards that 50% mark of their winners are on single match days. So with that last point taken into consideration, we can see him moving on to the top 10 performance buzz winners based on the number of wins. There are some players in here that have won, two, three times, but their earnings may not be as high as if they'd won on these gold or silver match days. So there may be some players that may have won just once and have earned, maybe 16p from the golden match day, where we can see here that players towards the bottom end here with two PB wins, so just 8 and 10p in PB earnings. But of course, leading the number of wins here is unsurprising. With Neymar here at the top, he spent a long time a king of the index this season. A very respectable PB maximum. And personally, I believe we could have seen a lot more of him this season if he'd have, remained fit, hadn't taken these suspensions, and just hadn't have just played up to cameras or whatever. So he still leads the table, but it could have been something, a lot more if we'd have seen him just play more football. So here we can see the average PB scores broken down by position and by match type, comparing League One and the average winning scores. However, we can move on just to see the differences between League One and the average winning scores. And we can see there that silver match days are quite skewed towards the international fixtures, affecting their PB scores because of the mismatch of the calibre of the teams. However, we can see that forwards do perform quite well within League One, and particularly on the bronze and golden days, and that may be because of, Depay or Neymar bringing in 9 PB wins between the two of them. It also is worth noting that defenders, are falling a little bit short, and with this, we haven't seen a particular defender being, PB dominant within the French league, and so that may be worth considering when you're looking to add a defender to your portfolio. Moving further on to the top 10 PB averages, we can see here that it's heavily dominated by PSG, having 6 of the 10 players here within the top 10, and the remaining, such as Payet, Cyprian, Depay, and Savagna, they're all obviously playing for quite quite decent teams within the top 4, or looking to get towards those European places. And that obviously reflects on their PB averages, as obviously they're winning more games and just, playing much higher level more consistently to improve their PB average. Although, if we are to move on here to the PB maximums, we get a mixture of players from a mixture of teams. But one thing that is important to note here, that follows on from a previous comment, is that there are no defenders here within the top 10 PB maximums, and that is something that I do think is worth considering once more. And what is also interesting to see here is the opponents have a mixture of difficulty. We've seen Lyon here appearing twice for Neymar and Payet, so both very talented players, but have scored very well against Lyon, and that could just show a dip in form for some of the better teams. Even Nice being in here, as well as some of the poorer teams. They're Toulouse with being at the bottom of the league. There, they appeared just once for Depay's 290 score, and some of the teams, Nimes or Metz towards the bottom of the league. Other players are also doing very well against those teams there. Here we can see the breakdown of each team in each position and the number of times that the player within a team has scored over the PB average winning score for that position. So, for example, Neymar is obviously in here over Mbappe just because he scored more times over the average winning score than Mbappe had been. But what's also important to see here is that there's a lot of just empty gaps here, which may suggest that League One is particularly concentrated between some teams and how often they win PB. And there are a lot of teams within League One that just aren't capable of being dominant enough within a match to just produce these PB winners. And that may also be suggested by just the number of teams that have a player in over the average PB winning score in each position. So we've just got 4 teams here that have a player in every position, which is Lyon, Marseille, PSG, obviously, and Monaco. So that is something to take note of when looking within League One and your PB analysis, and how effective are teams at winning the PB scores. For example, there Toulouse at the bottom of the league, haven't had anyone above the average winning PB score, which is not surprising in this case. So here is the last table showing the amount of times a team has won PB within League One, and it also shows here on the right hand side the amount of times a team has won PB against a particular team. So it's not surprising there to see that PSG have won PB 20 times out of the 68 this season. So, we're looking at nearly a third of the PB wins within League One are from PSG alone. And it also shows how concentrated League One, performance buzz winners are. Particularly there towards the bottom, we've got, 7 teams with no wins at all. And that is something worth considering once again within the PB research you're doing. And also there, moving on to the right-hand column, we can see how PSG just haven't conceded a PB winner this season, along with Rennes. Both teams are doing very well this season, both teams within the top 4. And it is interesting to see that Lyon there have had 6 PB winners against them. This may be due because obviously we had Depay's injury, a very big figure within their team, an ACL injury. So they may have dipped in performance and had a loss of form. But it also may just be because it may have picked up that they have lost or may have PB winners against them on single match days, which is also something that we've said previously and something to be taken note of. And that includes our PB analysis for today. And I hope you have enjoyed the video. If you have, please remember to drop a like down the video, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and look out for future content, which I'll be bringing out the Serie A and La Liga in the near future, as long as many other future content to look out for. So with that, stay safe and have